Welcome to the Chatty Auties Show, featuring candid conversations around faith, church, culture, and neurodivergence. I am your host, Rebekah Josann, and this is my co-host, William O'Flaherty. This show is presented by Scripture Prescriptions Ministries, a faith-based resource for spiritual growth, development, and health for your mind, body, and spirit. I am also the founder of Autism and Disability Advocacy Services, or ADAS, as a dual certified, trauma-informed, professional mental health coach and professional life coach through Light University. It is associated with the American Association of Christian Counselors, or AACC. Today is an introduction to this unique program many of you have waited patiently for. This podcast is for anyone who is diagnosed on the various levels of the autism spectrum, self-diagnosed, or suspecting. If you're a caregiver, parent, friend, colleague, or coworker of someone on the spectrum, this podcast will contain valuable conversations to help you understand your loved ones on the spectrum better and provide helpful resources. I also invite you to connect with our Chatty Auties Show community to not miss any episodes that drop. Go deeper with discussions around the topics we talk about here and connect with others on the spectrum, as well as caregivers and parents of autistic children of all ages. You will find the link in the show notes, and if you are watching this on Q Vision TV network, you can hover over the QR code with your camera to connect with us. You will find that at the end of this episode. So starting out, we should talk about how we got here. It's been quite the journey. Back in, I think it was 2020, this show was a private show. It was in a very select group of autistic people, and it ran for 2 seasons, and it was in a YouTube secret place. We weren't showing it to anybody. And the reason why is it was a very protected space for autistic community people who wanted to share their experiences and their stories, but didn't necessarily want the public to know. So I kept it private for that reason, unlisted. But the Lord stopped me from doing anything further with it after 2 years and put it aside and said that it would revive and relaunch at a later time, and it would be better than it started. Isn't that funny how God does that, right? So now we're getting to relaunch the Chatty Auties Show, not only on audio, but also on TV. This show is going to be on lots of different avenues between Roku TV, Fire TV. You probably are watching it on QVision TV right now. We're also going to be having it on YouTube. We're going to have it on Spotify eventually, and Apple Podcasts, any place that we can get this out. Now, William, I'm just going to ask, because I want the audience to kind of know a little bit why you joined me here, why there's a co-host, and why it's specifically you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your interest in this project?
Well, certainly, Rebekah, thanks for having me on the show here and to participate at this level. Back when, after I was diagnosed autistic in early 2024, which I guess we can talk about in more detail later, I was fascinated by the fact that there was this show. And then when I looked to see, where it was, and it wasn't there. So it's like, oh, well, let me, inquire about it. And so I did, and found out that it was on a temporary hold. So I was looking forward to the possibility and said, hey, I've got background in radio, And so I'd love to, participate in any way that I can.
Yes, that is so awesome. And when we first met, it was so great because I'd been praying about a co-host and who that would be. There was a couple people that popped up as possibilities, but it just didn't quite grab me. And then when you told me you had been in radio and you were showing such interest and kind of chasing after me about the show, that was kind of like, okay, I need to pay attention. And it's amazing because over the time frame from I think it was like 5 to 7 years ago that show ran, which is hard to believe that we're already in 2025 right now at the time of this recording. Um, but it's amazing like how that much time went by and God still was placing this on my heart and you were still around. I thought for sure that you'd be like, "Oh yeah, this girl, she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm out. I'll go move on to
Well,
other
yeah,
projects."
yeah. Well, that thought did cross my mind, but it's never going to happen. She just keeps talking about it every once in a while.
Well, and the struggle is real when it comes to having introversion in your life. So, me being an introvert, it's just not the easiest thing for me to get myself out here. So, this is a really big deal that we're even doing this right now. I still I'm like, pinch me. This feels really surreal. But one of the things that I really loved about the concept of putting together a show like this is one, there's not really anything out there that I have found that brings entertaining, funny, laughable moments of a show, along with the conversations that we need to be having, the conversations people want to have and talk about, and then being able to feature autistic guests, right? A lot of times people are hiding, they're masking, they're hiding from this community, or they do not want to be a part of something like this. And I'm hoping and praying that people will hear and see this show, see this introduction, go, "Ooh, that looks like fun. I want to be a guest on that show." Something raw and real. Now I know, William, you have some interesting things. I'm sure we'll get to know you a little bit better in another episode. We'll do like some separate episodes to share our stories and testimonies. But I know you have some like projects that you've been working on lately that are near and dear to my heart too, because I just love C.S. Lewis.
Ah, C.S. Lewis. Yeah, I have heard that name. Yes, he sounds familiar. Isn't he related to Lewis Carroll? No, not.
Well, C.S. Lewis, it's funny because he was one of like the early writers that I used to read when I was a teenager, and he really grabbed my attention. So I love that you have that connection as well, because that is somebody who I learned a lot of faith-based understanding from. I really related with C.S. Lewis and um, how creative he was when he would write. So what was your interest in C.S. Lewis?
Yeah, well, I was kind of late to the party, and I've heard other people that I've met and rubbed shoulders with that are true scholars. I'm just kind of a scholar by night, per se, or just someone that's really a strong enthusiast. It's not the main thing that I do, but yeah. So it was in high school, my junior year, I believe it was, that we had the possibility of reading, several different books. And I don't know if we saw the physical book or if we saw the page count or something, but the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was on it. And so I thought, that's a book I can read there. And so I never had heard of Lewis before, enjoyed it. Then I was at my Christian bookstore not long afterwards, and I know because I do have the original book that I read that time, or else I bought it at some point. But anyway, I'm sure I was obviously aware that there were other stories, but I guess I wanted something different, or I just struck up the conversation and asked, and so I was told about the Screwtape letters, and so I saw that that's 31 short letters. You can read it in like 5 minutes. And it's like, yes, sign me up. So, and I just fell in love with that. Went on to then read Mere Christianity, and over the next several years was reading more and more. And then I had a little bit of break where wasn't reading as much by Lewis, but more casually. But about 15 years ago, I started to dive back in, and that's where at the beginning there, I guess I didn't mention that since I had done a podcast on Lewis, and then delved into some YouTube stuff. So that's another area of experience that I had that I'm sure made it interesting in terms of considering having me on. But yeah, that's kind of the early time in terms of how I got into Lewis.
What's funny is we have such similarities. The Screwtape letters and the Narnia series were the two that grabbed me in as well, and Mere Christianity. Just all three of those that you mentioned. I had my parents had bought me this for Christmas, this Narnia treasure series, like where it had every single like book inside of one big thick book, and that was one of my absolute favorites. I'm pretty sure one of my siblings have that right now, because it gets passed down. um,
Hmm.
and then the screw tape letters, I have had several copies of that over the years, and I keep giving them away. When people would say like, "Oh, what's that?" I'd be like, "Here, take it. I'll just get another one," because it's such a good book. And we'll have to talk a little bit more about that and what you're doing with it and your projects around that at another time. Now, with this podcast, there's a few things that I want to highlight. What types of conversations do you think that we should have on this podcast? What topics should we bring up to kind of set this episode as a foundation for other episodes and things that, we can talk about? And also, all of you guys who are watching and listening, we would love to hear from you as well. So make sure that you join the podcast community. I'm going to have a link. If you don't have an access to a link the way that you are watching or listening to this, you can go to www.rebekahjosann.com and contact me through the little chat bot that I have there, and we will make sure you get connected to the community. So with that, ask questions too. If you guys have questions, if you guys have topics you want to hear on this, William, what do you think from seeing the autistic community and being a part of it yourself? What do you think people would like to hear on this podcast?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, some of the things I can think about would be things that I thought about in terms of when I was wondering about whether I was on the spectrum, as we call it, of course, and that just what do some of the terminology means? Does masking means I'm hiding myself always? Is there something wrong with learning how to do things, or why do I feel tired maybe from masking, as well as just if a person is late diagnosed like myself. I'm 61 now, so I was just diagnosed just barely over a year ago, and just I wasn't aware that okay, it wasn't a bad thing to be diagnosed, but there was still a grieving process. And I've talked to several other individuals on the spectrum that, they did go through a time of grief, because it's like, you wonder about what would life have been like had I known.
Mm.
And so, those are some of the things, just, some of the different terminologies. What are the different levels? Um, and an expression or a quote that I don't remember the individual who said it, but it's an important thing in terms of if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person only,
Hmm.
because there's a range of even personalities, as well as just the fact that there's three different levels.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, those are great. I think that that will be awesome to kind of help bring awareness to communities that don't know much about autism, as well as those who are learning about it. As a life coach, I have come across a lot of different types of people on the spectrum, and I've also seen a lot of bullying in this community as well, that I definitely want to bring up topics around that. One, why is it occurring? Why is it happening? And how can we, instead of, cyberbullying one another in this community, how can we lift each other up? How can we be encouraging towards one another and celebrate the differences? And when we see that, autistic people are trying to step out and do brave things, celebrate that, I see
Mhm.
a lot of autistic people trying something out, and instead of being, met with love and understanding and compassion and patience more than anything, right? For not getting it right, whether it's social cues or anything like that, not communicating well online. Like, I think we can definitely bring more of compassion to this space, online space, offline space, and church community space as well. Um, so, do you have any questions for me in regards to who I am? Because I really do not like to just go spitting out. I like it more conversational anyway, like
Right.
it
Yeah.
just feels so unnatural and uncomfortable.
Well, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll think of some things here. I think up front here, though, you were noting about being a life coach.
Yes.
Uh, uh, that one of the things, though, that the viewers and listeners, depending on the platform that you're experiencing this, that to just be briefly aware that for my actual line of work, I got a master's degree back 30 years ago, and so my daytime job is as a family a therapist, and so I come at having worked in the field of mental health and yet not knowing much about autism. So just want to throw that out there for people that to be aware of. But yeah, now I guess one of the things though we talked about uh, uh, previously, but not here on the program, is that you've not been officially diagnosed. So one of the topics that maybe might be too large to really dive into now, but just in terms of why do some people, not go for the official diagnosis? So what was your experience in regard to that?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sure that others that are listening are going to have this question as well, especially those of you who are experiencing self diagnosis or suspecting. We get a lot of people in the community that I admin, Autistic Christian Fellowship community. It's not my community, but I've helped build that community and admin that community. But we get a lot of people in there who say, I'm suspecting, I'm getting very, very close to possibly getting a diagnosis. The way that I kind of fit in with this community is on the neurodivergent side. So there's the autism and neurodivergent, which can also be very confusing, and we'll have to have a conversation about that. But the neurodivergent side contains people with like ADD, ADHD, PTSD. And so I was diagnosed with chronic PTSD back when I first was married with my first husband. It surfaced after I got married when things in life just changed and transitioned quickly. I had no idea what was going on, but I was experiencing all of these symptoms, and it became very overwhelming to me with like anxiety attacks and feeling so unsure of myself. Yes, and then when I was praying about it, I asked the Lord to help guide me to why I was experiencing these things, but why I was so sensitive to what had happened in my life that had led to the PTSD. So when I prayed, He is faithful. God is very faithful. If you're a listener and you don't know who
Amen.
God is, both of us can attest to the Lord's faithfulness in our lives. But He was faithful and He guided me gently to the autistic community that I admin now. And it was amazing because I felt like when I got into that community, started hearing people's experiences and stories, I was like, wow, this sounds too familiar. And then somebody else in a business group kind of caught some of my traits and they were like, so there's this thing called high functioning, and at the time it was called Asperger's. It's no longer that name anymore, but they were like, you seem to really fit this profile, right? And I did a little screening test thing, which I think a lot of people online they do this. It was a
Hmm.
very put together one. I can't remember what it's called. Um, But it was very well put together by psychologists and had been really studied before they put that out. And I took that test and I was scoring most likely on the autism spectrum. So that really was a shocker, but it made sense because when I saw my little graph that they show like where the deficits might be, where the strengths lie, and where the weaknesses are, I was very like struggling with like verbal and stuff like that was a big one. And then um, the multi-talented gifts that we see in the spectrum community was all there too. So yeah, it was really, really a powerful moment.
Mm. Yes, yeah, yeah. It is in terms of just that flash of insight once you consider, well, gee, that explains a whole lot. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
so whether a person has the ability. I know for me, I had the ability that was fairly simple to pursue it, and it wasn't very costly. But for many individuals, it is a cost prohibitive if they even have that option in their area.
There's that, and there's also this fact that it is much easier for boys and men, males, to be diagnosed than females because we are excellent at masking. So we can figure out ways to mask through a test if we have to. But because I think the straightforwardness of a male, I mean, I'm not saying that there's a big difference between male and female, but I have heard this from just different various scientific sources, which I can get some of that stuff if that's of interest. But they have said that like women mask so much more than men do in things like that. So you can see it more visibly than you can in a woman. And I would say that there's truth to that because I've met a lot of women that I had no idea were on the spectrum and then they got diagnosed. And then it was just like, what? I'm
Hmm.
shocked. I'm shocked because that person was masking with me the whole time. But what I love about being a life coach that works with neurodivergent people is nobody has to mask. My clients do not have to mask. They get to be completely 100% themselves and have their meltdowns in front of me and do whatever they need to do and we get through it, in those moments. So it is a joy for me to get to serve in that space and, be in that space professionally.
Right, and then this is too large of a topic as we are, I think, near the end. But in terms of understanding what masking is for those who maybe are a loved one of someone who's on the spectrum, that masking also the term is used about camouflaging, and so in terms of not truly being what you are feeling in a negative sense of the way. In other words, it takes a lot of effort in order to present yourself while you're experiencing all sorts of maybe sensory issues and emotions, but then coming across like everything is you're all calm, cool, and collected, and that takes a lot of energy.
Oh, that is so true. That is such a good point. I just want to briefly pause here. So, obviously, we are working in two different locations with tech. So, just a little real raw moment. There may be times in this episode or other episodes where our video glitches, our sound glitches. So, we do ask that those of you who are listening, especially those of you who have sensory sensitivities to things like that, like sound, etc. Please don't beat us up. I feel like I should say that because I do know that a huge trait of the autistic community is to be very blunt. So, yes, I know you will tell me I said this wrong, did that wrong, your audio wasn't good, your video wasn't good. But we are doing our best because unfortunately, streaming and technology doesn't always play nice. Isn't that right?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. We spent a couple hours just testing some things and just trying to figure out how we might do this. So yeah, we hopefully have uh, the presentation will come across well enough for people to enjoy it and not be distracted.
Yes, yes. And if you happen to be distracted, or if there's anything that you missed in this broadcast because we had glitches from our streaming, please just let us know in the community so that we can make sure you get the answers that you're looking for if you did have any questions. So, okay. So, how can our listener base help this to grow? I was thinking about that, like really bringing some community around this program, and just building relationships. It's so important, right? So, what are ways that you have seen just in your marketing and things like that? Because I know you're also a professional that works in different spaces of marketing. What do you think that our audience could do to be a part of helping this grow, helping this get out to as many people as possible?
Yeah, well, of course, whatever platform that a person is on, they will want to, share it. The old-fashioned word of mouth. If you're catching this in the various different social media platforms, to share it through that. Also, if where you're watching has the ability to like it, that sends a good message too. So those are some quick ways. Then, of course, just gather your email list and send it now. You don't want to do that. You might annoy people, but yeah, actually, someone may take me seriously. Uh,
Actually, a point to that, email lists are actually some of the best ways to communicate with your audiences. Because if you think about it, social media platforms, all of that can glitch, all of that can one day fall apart, right? Like if we depend too much on those platforms to stay connected with our audiences, it could actually be very detrimental. We could actually lose you and not be able to find you again. So, actually, an email list, hey, look, I'm going to plug the email list because it's actually one of the
oh,
top ways
sure.
to market. It is very good. So, if you guys are hearing this and you're like, I didn't even think about Facebook going down or there being a blackout or something like that, because, we live in a crazy world right now and it's anything is possible. Yeah, definitely get on that email list. I will have a link of that as well. It's on my website. Yeah, explore that website. There's other things there too you might be interested in. And check out William's website because he also has one. What is your website?
Yes, well, thanks. Well, also, just a quick clarification. I was
Mhm.
joking about people going to their list of friends and just sending out a mass email to
Oh,
their friends without any,
yeah, don't do
setup
that.
there. It's like that can be annoying. But
Yes.
yeah, so I my Lewis website is essentialcslewis.com. Again, that's the word essential, then cslewis.com. And then after I was diagnosed, I started a YouTube channel related to autism, and it's called Adult Autism with William, because I focus primarily on adults. And then also it's generally the level one, and so I have a range of material there for people to check out.
Awesome, awesome. And you can find me at, again, www.rebekahjosann.com. That's R-E, I'm going to spell it out because I get the wrong one, Rebecca, all the time. REBEKAHJOSANN.com. And that's probably the best way because I don't want to give you other really long handles because it would make no sense. It's easier to just find me there. You can find all my social channels to connect with me from that website. Is there anything else we want to share or say before we end this? I think this has been fantastic as an introduction for sure.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think in terms of trying to touch on, what we're going to be doing ahead, some of the different top possibilities, and then where people can, reach us or check out some other things. I think that's covered it quite well.
Awesome, awesome. And yes, if we missed anything that you guys think would be really positive within the conversation that we had today to talk about, we do want to hear from you. You can also email me at spministries@rebekahjosann.com for that as well. And we hope you have a very, very blessed day.